Good evening, everyone. Welcome inside the M&T Bank Arena at Quinnipiac University for tonight's acrobatics and tumbling competition between the Quinnipiac Bobcats and the Gannon Golden Knights. My name is Skylar Tomey, and I'm joined by Stephanie and Emily, and we will be your commentators tonight.
We're super excited to be back here this year. My name is Stephanie Colella, excited to be here at Quinnipiac for the season opener for the acrobatics and tumbling team. Really just excited to see what QU and Gannon University are going to put out there today.
Very exciting getting to join you ladies for the first meet of the season for these two teams. My name is Emily Funk. I'm class of 2022, so it's great getting to do this meet with some fellow alums. Starting talking about what we expect to see today, the first event is the compulsory event. Then we have 3 heats within the acro event, followed by the pyramid event, and then halftime. After our halftime, we have the toss event, the tumbling event, and the team event. So throughout the event, a running score will be kept, and the team with the most points at the end of all 6 events will be the winner of the meet. As the meet is beginning right now, we'll talk about our first event, the compulsory event. It has 4 heats, the acro, pyramid, toss, and tumbling heats. The skills for the compulsory event represent the basic skills of our sport of acrobatics and tumbling. In this event, each team will execute the same exact skills for direct comparison. So each heat begins with a start value of 10. The officials look for strong body positions, 3-second holds, stability of structures, continuity of skills, strong catches, and solid landings. I personally love this event because we get to see both teams on the same playing field, apples to apples, exactly how their technique compares to each other.
Yeah, we really look at the compulsory event as basically the bread and butter, kind of the foundation of the sport. And every few years they do vote on what is expected for each heat throughout this event.
Great, and we can see that Gannon University is kicking us off in the compulsory acro heat.
Nice and clean, with good sync there between the two groups.
So you're going to look here for those solid holds and also the synchronization between both groups there.
Here we're going to look for that stability in the inverted position. Those tops are doing a nice job mirroring one another and staying nice and still in the air.
You can also see this solid dismount there. They held it also for a certain amount of time there. That's also really important too when they're getting their scores.
Nice job out of Gannon, especially at the first meet of the year. Compulsories can be a nerve-wracking event, but these two teams are both preseason top 10s, so they have that veteran level status and are able to execute those skills very, very well.
Absolutely, and this is a really exciting year for the sport of acrobatics and tumbling. So for those of you who don't know, acrobatics and tumbling has been classified under the emerging sport status for the women's program since 2020. However, just last month, exciting news, the NCAA did vote acrobatics and tumbling to full championship sport status. So they're looking at potentially the first national championship in the 2027 season. So exciting this year, but there's just going to be continued growth for this sport. Really what it's about is providing opportunities for women athletes, and I do anticipate that more schools are going to continue to offer this sport as they have, as it's grown since its initiation, which has been fantastic to see.
I definitely agree. I think with the support of the NCAA, this sport has no boundaries of where it's going to go. And this is especially special for Quinnipiac as one of the founding schools of acrobatics and tumbling. So for head coach Marianne Powers, this was a huge deal last month when we finally reached the agreement and the sport was voted in. So this must be a very exciting first meet of the season for her as a founding member starting in 2009.
I can only imagine. Quinnipiac was one of the founding members of the sport with their first competition in 2010. Overall, this move just really reflects years of steady growth driven by programs such as Quinnipiac and Gannon and advocacy by the NCATA, which built the sport into something that is NCAA championship ready.
Not to date myself, but I will say I was really fortunate enough to be on that first year with the team for its first meet as an acrobatics and tumbling team. So just really excited to see that evolution over the past several years, and it speaks volumes to the work that these teams have put into the sport, particularly Coach Powers, who has really just dedicated so much to this sport and to this program at Quinnipiac.
It's so great that you were a part of the founding team and
So
you're still here
exciting.
supporting us.
I know, I'm just always so fortunate to be back here.
Great height out of those athletes.
Again, you're going to look at these solid holds here in each skill that they're executing.
Few steps there, but a very nice recovery by the Bobcats. Good symmetry between those tops and a good finish for the Bobcats. They'll be happy with that start, and they'll look to keep building on that momentum.
Definitely, and you can tell here too, again with the compulsory, we're looking at the same skills, we're looking at the strength of the athletes, we're looking at stability, we're looking at the body position not only in the air, but it's really important that we're also looking here at the dismount and how the tops are actually caught, making sure they're in that really nice solid body positioning for even that catch. It's not just about how the skill is executed at the top, how it's executed in the beginning, but how they finish as well.
Definitely. And another piece of the puzzle is that we have two groups out there. So not only are you trying to perfect what you're doing, but you're trying to match it up exactly with the other group that's on the mat.
Yeah, though we're all doing the same skills, these athletes really do each have a unique style and way of doing these things. So it's really important that the coaches are able to strategize and find athletes who are able to perform the skills in the same exact manner.
And there's a lot of thinking that goes into that. As we see the groups that are out there, sometimes you'll see the similar size of the groups, like even the height of the bases, the tops, play a big role in that timing and helping to make sure that the execution's down to the millisecond that we're matching up. And now that the compulsory acro heat has finished, we're going to see the compulsory pyramid heat start up with Gannon University.
So we mentioned this a little bit before, but each of these heats throughout the compulsory event will have a potential score for 10 points each.
Good symmetry and height on those dismounts. The Golden Knights should be happy with that performance.
Yeah, Gannon's definitely starting out strong today. Feels good at their first meet to come out swinging. As Stephanie mentioned before, talking about the technique, we could see it match up between the two groups on the mat there. Really perfected from the start to the finish, trying to time everything up.
Definitely, and I think the first two heats out of the Golden Knights kind of reflects what this program has been able to do, and they're under new leadership this year. We have a first-time coach, head coach, Addie Wilmendorf, who was promoted to head coach in June of 2025. She serves after being an assistant coach for the Golden Knights for 2 seasons, and she was also an athlete at Gannon. So she's a longtime Gannon supporter, athlete, and she's done a nice job with these first compulsory events.
Something that we see a lot, even though it's an emerging sport, we're still figuring some things out. It's really great to see so many of the teams have direct alum on their coaching staff. We have the same thing with Quinnipiac University, assistant coach Tiffany Ziba and assistant coach Nicolette Tienga, as well as their volunteer coach Melanie Mancini. They're all graduates of the program.
goes to show you that the opportunities within the sport do not stop on the mat. It's really just great to see these athletes continuing to be dedicated to the evolution of the sport.
Absolutely. Here comes Quinnipiac with compulsory pyramid heat.
Those mid-tier bases were also both in the compulsory acro event. We're seeing Sarah Abladian and Madison Bradley, two very strong braces that Coach Powers was very excited to see what they put out this season.
Nice high catches there, solid dismounts. Both Quinnipiac and Gannon should be really proud with the work they're putting out there today. Excellent work.
It was a good round for the Bobcats. Great start.
So it's crazy to think now it's 2026. The sport has really evolved since the early 2000s when it originated. And just to kind of give some background, it did evolve from a combination of cheerleading, gymnastics. To be honest, there's athletes from all different areas, but that's kind of the base of where it started. And it was designed basically to provide female athletes the opportunity at the collegiate level. The sport does focus not only on what we're seeing right now, which is the acro and the pyramid, but there's combined things with tumbling as well as other synchronized events, including toss, and as well as the team routine at the end. So just always, I think it's exciting to see the background of where the sport has come from and to see where we're going to go through the meet today.
Absolutely. We're about to watch the toss event, an event we haven't yet talked about. And this stems from a more cheerleading route. However, we found that through acrobatics and tumbling, gymnasts have really excelled in this role.
As we get later, I was distracted by their tosses. They had great height.
That was great. Yeah, that was fantastic height. I always like to see it on the recap too, how high these athletes are really going. It's amazing.
Right. I love when they slow it down and you can really just see how it matches up. What Skylar was saying before, what it made me think of is that it does have the cheerleading background, but as we get into the more intense tosses later in our meet, we actually sometimes have tops with a diving background, which is really intricate and very similar to how they're doing these intricate dives. You see them bring it to tosses, and I thought that is a very cool background for people to have coming into the sport.
Really goes to show the versatility of the sport. And again, we keep going back to it, but the opportunities for women.
That's what it's about.
As we saw in that replay, they really did have great height in those tosses.
The other thing they're looking at too, the officials, is not only the height, but the height amongst the two groups. So they do want to make sure that each top is actually hitting the same height. So it's really important not only to synchronize the time, but to synchronize that entire skill. We have Quinnipiac now taking the mat for the toss heat in the compulsory event. That's a mouthful.
Really nice job out of those two tops.
Essentially what we want to see here is that mirror image, which I really do think Quinnipiac did a great job here on doing that.
Number 9 on the right we saw is Genesis Carson. She's one of the transfers for Quinnipiac that I had the opportunity to speak to Coach Tianga, and she said she was really thrilled and excited about the potential that these transfers offered, and so far we've seen amazing things out of Jenna and other transfers that have been on the mat.
That's great to hear.
As we can see in that slowed down replay, the tops are hitting similar points at similar times, which really helps with the technique. Even though this is one of probably the easier tosses, which is hard to even say because none of this is easy. The technique here is what's getting scored with that 10.0 start value for all the compulsory heats. We want to see that perfection in all areas from start to finish.
Yeah, to your point though, this toss is really the basics that these athletes need to execute in order to advance their skills and learn more advanced tosses. One thing we'll talk about too when we get to the toss event is how these athletes need to execute the skill at the top to most peak height that they can.
And here's Gannon with compulsory tumbling. The officials are watching all areas, especially their feet, though, on those landings. We want to see if there's any steps, hops, any deviation from where they're supposed to be.
Yes, we're looking for synchronization between the athletes and form and each individual athlete. These skills are relatively basic for these athletes. However, they are the foundation of all the tumbling skills we'll see for the remainder of the meet. Nice round off back handspring layout by the Golden Knights. Overall, I thought that was a very well done compulsory tumbling round. Again, especially for the first meet of the season.
Yeah, I find this one to be the most difficult in, having some points taken off just because there's so much area for feet to move, for timing to be off, because you have now 8 athletes individually doing tumbling skills. They all tumble a little bit differently, so finding the ways to set up their passes that match up with their teammates is quite difficult.
We'll get a replay here on that first back tuck. You can see how all of those athletes have similar arm placement and feet placement. They're all operating on the same counts with great form.
A little bit of a timing error there.
Coach Tiffany Ziba and her tumbling expertise have really honed in on tumbling this season and last season. She was credited with leading them to the national championship pass in the trio tumbling round. I had the opportunity to talk to her a bit about tumbling this year, where they're at and where she sees them going. And she told me they're in a great spot with lots of depth, and they still have yet to hit their peak, which I think is very exciting. And I think in this next round, we'll get to see some of the potential that the Bobcats have to offer.
We can see Quinnipiac getting the jitters out before they take the mat.
Always fun to watch some pre-meet rituals. Everyone has their little habits, and such a common thing in acrobatics and tumbling and cheerleading and gymnastics, where a lot of these athletes begin.
Tumbling heat will be Quinnipiac University.
Here comes Quinnipiac University taking the mat for compulsory tumbling. Definitely recognizing some faces of people that have been in this past couple of years.
I have to say, really solid timing there.
You notice Quinnipiac does a little bit of a different arm placement than the Golden Knights did. They are landing their skills with their arms by their side. We're seeing it's easy to have similarities between the athletes when they do a pose like that.
And even though it's a stylistic choice, it has no impact on score. We'll see that a little bit today. People choose to do things slightly differently.
Very nice finish for the Bobcats. Round off back handspring layout.
I have to say the Bobcats did copy-paste there. Everything was very synchronized, solid in all their landings and executions. Great job.
They're definitely happy with that performance.
Absolutely. So that will close out our compulsory event, and I will introduce our next event. So our next event is the Acro event. This marks the beginning of the optional portion of the meet. Each team will compete with skills that have been previously chosen with different possible start values. There will be 2 to 4 athletes on the floor in each of the 3 heats, and as many as 8 in the synchronized heats. Heat 1 has 5 elements, Heat 2 has 6 elements, and Heat 7 has 7 elements. The start value is determined by the difficulty and combination of each skill. Each position must be held for 3 seconds, and the officials will be looking for the body position of the top, stability from the base, and continuity of skills. This event demonstrates power, strength, and balance from all athletes on the mat.
So this is the first event of the day where we'll start to see varying start values. So in the compulsory event, all of the heats that went had that start value of 10. All the teams have to pre-submit the skills that they're going to perform. and they have different start values. So we'll see a little bit of variation as we'll talk about going into the different heats of the acro round. But some teams will make the choice to maybe have a lower start value for a skill that they can execute really well, as opposed to trying to pick a super high start value, maybe where they might run into some execution issues.
Absolutely, and they still can have a maximum of 10 possible points. The difficulty does come from the connection of skills in the sequence, the ability to maintain control, continuity, and stability throughout. So a lot of different things go into how these scores are actually formulated.
And it does play a lot into strategy of both the coaches and the athletes. You know, finding good pairings, finding good combinations of skills, finding what works for your team. It takes a lot of time and practice. And I had the opportunity to talk with Nicolette Sianga before the meet, and she noted that they had so many options when it came from the acro round. It really came to the point where they just needed to make a decision, and they were trying out all these different rounds. They have a lot of options, but these rounds may only have been chosen for about a week. So it goes to show you. It's a lot of variables, a lot of variations, especially in this event.
We can see that our scores are starting to come in for the compulsory event. On compulsory acro, Gannon receives a 9.3. Quinnipiac receives a 9.5. For compulsory pyramid, Gannon receives a 9.65. Quinnipiac receives a 9.85. For the toss, Gannon receives a 9.75. Quinnipiac receives a 9.9. For compulsory tumbling, Gannon receives a 8.25. Quinnipiac receives a 8.9. So Gannon totals a 36.95 for the compulsory event, and Quinnipiac receives a 38.2. So a really strong start from both teams.
Very strong, and these scores are wonderful starting points. Again, for the first meet of the season, they should be happy with that. There's about 1 point and change separation between the two teams. The final meet will be out of 300 points, so quite some bit to go.
So it looks like the highest score for that event was Quinnipiac with the toss heat. They scored a 9.9, which again is out of a score total of 10.
One correction, in the tumbling heat, Quinnipiac has scored an 8.95.
Oh, we have one update in the tumbling heat for the compulsory event. Quinnipiac scored an 8.95 for, again, the tumbling heat. That gives our total for Quinnipiac a 3.8. And that looks like it's going to be different. Hang on.
A 38.25, I believe.
That sounds right. You can tell none of us were math majors.
Yes, we're here to talk about acro, not do math.
We still had a stellar education at Quinnipiac, though. We're very thankful for that.
Up first with a start value of 10.0.
So now we'll get the opportunity to see the 5 element from the Gannon Golden Knights with the start value of 10.00, meaning the difficulty has been maximized.
So not only do they have to complete those 5 elements, they have 45 seconds to do so. It's a great start.
In the inverted position, we see number 8, Sydney Gibson. She has been atop in several events this far for the Golden Knights.
I'm not sure if that was an early dismount, hard to say.
Finishing with a nice pike hold.
They were able to complete the 5 element acro sequence with 6 seconds left on the clock.
And that's another aspect of this event. All of these acro elements, whether it be 5, 6, or 7, have to be completed within 45 seconds. With the Acro 5, it's not as challenging, but as we add more elements in, it becomes more challenging to finish the skills within the 45-second time window. If they go over, it will result in a deduction.
Don't forget that 3-second hold.
Exactly.
Who can forget the 3-second hold?
Watching a replay here of that handstand from the Gannon athletes. And it looks like it'll be close on that 3-second hold for the inverted position, but Sydney did a nice job maximizing her balance and holding it as long as she could. You may have seen a bit of an early dismount, but it'll be up to the judges on how they decide to score that.
As we talked about before, all of the skills are pre-submitted. So going into the rounds, the officials know what they're looking for and what the teams are expected to do. So for us, while we might not be able to tell what is or what isn't supposed to happen, they do know. So it's easier for them to identify maybe some technical errors or places that the scoring can be impacted instead of trying to decipher what was supposed to originally be performed.
And this goes to Skylar's point in mentioning the strategic approach that the athletes and their coaches have to work on. They have to basically plan out the skills that they're doing in order to optimize the best score that they can and make sure that they're executing at the top of their level, while still keeping in mind safety and keeping in mind, you know, the potential for growth moving along through the season.
They also have to hit on some of those requirements we were discussing in the acro round that also will require an inverted position, which is why we're seeing some handstand variations, handstands, shoulder stands, and similar elements. Next up, we have the Quinnipiac Bobcats. And here we're seeing a pair of new athletes for the Bobcats, 2 transfers.
And Quinnipiac also has a starting value here of a 10.
Very well done.
Solid hold and very well guided dismount there.
A lot of control is what I'm seeing so far from the Bobcats.
And you can tell that control isn't just coming from the top, but the bottom as well there. So that's really critical for ensuring the stability and execution of that skill. Nicely done.
And that was number 53, Madison Bradley, and number 9, Genesis Carson. Genesis Carson comes from Limestone University, and Madison comes from LIU. These 2 athletes bring experience to the Bobcats, but are also brand new to the team. Here we'll get a bit of a replay. So this is a 1-to-1 handstand, meaning it is just one base and one top, really highlighting the strength of our base and our top as she's able to balance on just hands. Now, I never did a handstand on top of anyone, but I'm sure it is harder than just doing it on the ground.
I mean, they're making it look effortless, but we know the strength that goes in from all those athletes involved in that skill.
Here we have the 6-element acro with an added layer of difficulty as we need 2 synchronized groups.
Gannon does have a start value of 10.0.
Very nice walk into the top. Good synchronization on that dismount. And a nice full off. That is a very difficult dismount and very challenging to sync up. They did a nice job.
Nicely done. You can see the solid hold there and then the transition into one base with the top, making that difficulty much higher.
Nice and stable. And Skylar, great point about the full offs. That's not something that you normally see at the first meet of the season. That's one of those skills that a lot of teams grow into once they're a little bit more familiar throughout the season with working with their groups. We might see some more tuck offs or layoffs off the acro sequences today, but really great job, Gannon.
Absolutely. We did see a very veteran group out there for the Golden Knights. We had a group of juniors and seniors and grad students. Sometimes rounds like this, you will reuse the same athletes and elements as you have years prior because it does take those repetitions to perfect.
And as we start to see some more of the rounds today, we might recognize some of these pairings in the team event way at the end of our meet today. These groups work together, and it does take so long to perfect what they're doing that a lot of these skills and sequences will be shown in the team event.
Absolutely. It's part of that strategy that we've been mentioning. You practice these rounds and skills all day, but they also have to apply to that team event so you're getting the most out of your repetitions.
It's like piecing together a puzzle. You
Exactly.
have, some teams have 45, 50 athletes, and you can utilize 28 of those athletes throughout a meet, 24 in the team event. So you have to really be strategic about these pairings of who can offer you what. Specifically, can they offer you stuff in more than one area?
I have to say, really solid energy out here on a very frigid, might I add, Monday evening. Really good to see a strong audience coming to support both Gannon, coming all the way from Erie, Pennsylvania, and here at Hamden, Connecticut for the Bobcats. Large crowd, happy to see it.
Next with a start value 10.0.
And next we have the Quinnipiac Bobcats for the 6-element acro heats.
Another start value of a 10-0.
A good recovery there by number 14, Sarah Bladian. Nice and solid pop arounds. Here we'll get into our inversion element. With 2 nice handstands, both on top of 2 bases.
Beautiful pikes.
Good job out of the Bobcats. We saw them maintain all of their 3-second holds. A slight instability at the beginning, but a very nice recovery. The 6-element acro heat mirrors a lot of the same principles as the compulsory acro heat, except it has that extra layer of difficulty with those advanced skills. This is a relatively new adjustment for this round. Only within the last couple of years have they added a synchronized acro heat. In each round, you'll find that there's a synchronized portion. A synchronized toss, synchronized tumbling, synchronized pyramids. It's such a huge part of the sport. It's really great to see that these athletes are able to hone in and achieve this goal in the acro round.
So the last heat in the acro event is the 7-element acro sequence, which we talked about a little bit. So still we're looking at that 45-second clock now to complete 7 elements.
Start value of 9.90. Gannon University.
First up, we'll have Gannon with a start value of 9.90.
Really powerful start.
Yeah, really great to see the top with 1 base, a little bobble there. They're able to recover. And a solid dismount.
Very nice. The judges will have eyes on our base's feet, making sure they stay very stable.
Again, you can see the initial part of that portion started with 2 bases, and then they go to 1, really showing the power of that athlete, of all those athletes, but particularly that solid base there.
Nice job of Gannon closing out their acro event. A small bobble, but overall they should be pleased. Another layer to the acro event that we haven't talked about is that you cannot have the same athletes compete in each round. Can you kind of talk about how that adds another layer of challenges to these coaches and athletes?
Yeah, I mean, I think one thing is, too, they have to be really mindful of that and how they recruit. They need to make sure that they're recruiting athletes that are, you know, having skill in all different areas. You know, there are athletes that are more skilled in the tumbling event. There's athletes that are more skilled in the toss event. So there's some variability in where each athlete's strengths are. However, the coaches really have to be strategic in how they are recruiting as well, to ensure that they're having a diverse, you know, skill out there to meet each event.
So sometimes that means, you know, maybe having to break up some of your stronger players, especially in that synchronized heat. You have to think about spreading the wealth. If you're not able to reuse players in certain rounds and you have all these structures to put up, it's very, very difficult. I'm glad you brought that up.
Yeah, and we've talked a little bit about how the sport came from cheerleading, gymnastics, but it has recruited athletes. I know we mentioned diving, but also just acrobatics in general. There's also power tumbling, trampoline tumbling. So it does recruit, I think, also from pole vaulters. So wide range of athletes have participated in this sport.
We can see Quinnipiac is starting this 7-element heat. They're wrapping up our acro event with a start value of 10-0.
I have
Very
to say
difficult.
that always amazes me, that difficulty with that body positioning, especially in that back bend there, is just outstanding.
Absolutely. And in these handstand transitions, what we really want to look for is continuity. That's the ability to smoothly move from one skill to the other. And both of these tops are first years. So to go out and do an inverted position your very first meet is very challenging and very impressive. We were missing a bit of that continuity, but overall, great job out of the Bobcats in that event.
This completes our acro event.
And now we'll round out the acro event. Next up, we'll have the pyramid event. The pyramid event is going to be our final event in the first half. In the pyramid event, athletes will build 3 layers in a structure. The start value of each heat, again, is determined by the difficulty and the combination of entry, structure, and dismount. The pyramid event has 3 different heats with 3 different requirements. So heat 1 must have an inversion, which is that upside down position we've alluded to. Heat 2 must be synchronized, so 2 groups, and heat 3 is an open heat where coaches and athletes can kind of use their creativity to decide what is best for their team. So key things the officials will be looking for are a hold by the top for 3 seconds following the entry, overall stability of the structure, and a smooth dismount that ends with either a catch or a landing, again with no movement with feet, hands of any participant in the round, not just the bases and the tops.
I'm excited to see what both teams come out with, because for all 3 heats within this event, Gannon and Quinnipiac have start values of 10s.
Oh, wow, that's great to hear.
That's a great testament to both teams and their skill level. As we said, this is a preseason top 10 matchup, and it's proving why that's so.
It's always great, too, to see the creativity that goes into these different events at this point in the meet. You know, there's going to be different skills that are executed on both teams. So I always look forward to seeing what they're going to put out there.
It's a good opportunity to showcase your team's strengths and kind of their wants as well. What skills they want to be competing and what they've been working towards either just this year or the past couple of years.
And one thing we should mention too is in comparing the acro event to the pyramid event, so although we're building in each of these different events, the pyramid is actually going to be with 3 structures. So basically there's 3 levels there, which is going to include the entry, the structure, and the dismount as well.
Not only 3 parts, 3 layers.
Yes.
So these pyramids will have 3 layers of athletes, ranging in the number, depending on what skill they're performing. But we'll have our first layer, which is a base who is holding 2 athletes on top of her. We often see this in a thigh stand, which is a lunge position, a bridge, which is a back bend, or a variation between the 2. That middle layer can have 1 to 2 athletes holding a top in a different position above them.
For the acro event, please direct your attention to the video board. In the 5-element heat, Gannon scores an 8.15.
So scores are now coming in for the acro event. For the first heat, 5-element, Gannon receives a 8.15. Quinnipiac sees a 9.9. In the 6-element synchronized heat, Gannon receives a 9.15, and Quinnipiac receives a 9.35. And in the 7-element heat, Gannon receives a 9.1, and Quinnipiac receives a 9.35, bringing the event total to Gannon 26.4 and Quinnipiac 28.6. So Quinnipiac's continuing off that lead that they have, but Gannon's still putting up really strong performances. So it could still be anyone's game at this point.
It's now time for pyramid.
Looking at a final score right now of 66.8, Quinnipiac to 63.35 for Gannon. We talked about how there's 300 potential points to be grabbed throughout the entirety of the meet. So while that gap seems quite large, there is lots of room for things to change.
And here comes Gannon kicking off the pyramid event with the inversion pyramid.
So here we see 2 bases in that thigh stand position, 1 mid-layer base, and then 1 top.
Again, we may see some stylistic choices as we see different handstands with how the top likes to have their legs, what works best for them. So although we saw that position there, it might look a little bit different when Quinnipiac goes.
Yes, I do believe Quinnipiac will be putting out a very similar pyramid. So even though we can have some customization in between these rounds, it is common to see these teams do the same skill.
Now, I don't know about everyone else, but every time I watch these, I'm so impressed by the bottom level bases that they're able to hold those thigh stands while holding multiple people, or back bends even more. But trying to hold those thigh stands, holding people is so beyond impressive. And that's not even really who we end up watching in these events.
It is crazy, especially when we get to those, different skills where the base isn't a back bend. It's actually pretty incredible that then they're having different athletes on top of that, making it even more challenging.
That was a good job by the Golden Knights. That handstand hold, we saw a little bit of stability lacking in the handstand position. However, they did hit that 3-second hold. And as we've said, this is a very challenging pyramid, especially with the 1-to-1 mid-layer to top layer.
And just to go back too, I mean, this is so early in both these teams' season. It's their first meet. Each team is going to be mindful of that and make sure that they're prioritizing safety given they're so early in the season.
That's a word we don't hear all the time, but it's very important. Safety is key. Have to keep these athletes healthy. As a reminder, Quinnipiac also has a start value of 10.0.
Nice 3-second hold in both the handstand and the pike position.
It's really challenging, too, to go from that inversion and then to that rotation in the pike. We've seen that a few times now, which, again, I feel like these athletes are making it look effortless, but it really does require a lot of stability, a lot of control and strength.
Absolutely, and it's not necessarily a requirement for the athletes to do that. However, it does show the judges just the amount of control that those tops and bases have. So that pairing, number 53 and number 9, were the same pairing who earned a 9.9 in the Acro 5 event. Seems like Quinnipiac is really taking advantage of that skill set and that pairing.
They seem to work really well together.
Does take a level of chemistry and confidence in one another for a consistent pairing like that to work, and they're doing a fantastic job.
Up first with a start value of 10.0, Gannon University.
Yeah, you mentioned trust. I mean, I think all sports really require trust from our teammates, and I think that's critical. But the trust that goes into these athletes is just amazing. I mean, they're holding each other up, which is just amazing.
Here we have Gannon with the synchronized pyramid event, also a start value of 10.00. Some 2 bridges, a move that requires strength and flexibility by those bottom bases.
I have to say, another copy and paste type scenario here. Wonderful job.
Very clean by Gannon.
Yeah, nice pretty pikes from the tops.
Yeah, very nicely executed.
So Gannon this year is number 9 in the 2026 preseason poll. They finished 10th in the 2025 final ranking, so they have moved up a spot. Last season, the Golden Knights finished 3 and 5 overall, but they did compete against 4 teams ranked in the top 10. In 2025, they qualified to compete in the synchronized toss event at the NCATA National Championships. They've also had a few coaching changes this year. They've added Caitlin Cooper to their coaching staff. It's her first season as an assistant acrobatics and tumbling coach. She joins Gannon from Ohio State University, where she earned her master's in sports coaching. She was also a student athlete at Hawaii Pacific in acrobatics and tumbling from 2020 to 2023. She has experience as a women's gymnastics team manager at Ohio State and interned with the National Collegiate Acrobatics and Tumbling Association. So not the same path we see all these coaches go on. However, I think her experience will bring a new perspective and a great level of expertise to the Golden Knights.
And I think it already is with how well this meet is going so far.
Next we have Quinnipiac in the synchronized pyramid event, also with a start value of 10.00. We will see them doing a different pyramid than the bridge one we just saw. We see 2 thigh stand bases on each side, a mid-level, number 53 and number 14, and those 2 tops, number 9 and number 17.
Really solid holds.
And that extension there, it makes this difficulty much higher. We're going to see those solid dismounts there as well.
Really nice job from the Bobcats. They should be happy with that performance.
So just a little history between Quinnipiac and Gannon. So the last matchup between Quinnipiac and Gannon was actually April 5th of last year. Quinnipiac had a score of 267.395 and Gannon with 255.315. Very close. Quinnipiac has had 10 wins against Gannon, 3 losses. Home record being 4-1 and a similar away record as well. You can even take it back a bit. The first meet that Quinnipiac was against Gannon was 12, let's see, how many years ago? It was in 2014, actually.
Wow.
So Quinnipiac had a win then of 279.575 and Gannon with 260.895.
And Gannon's been a very consistent team the past couple of years, and I believe it might have been 2022 that they had a appearance in the finals of the NCATA National Championship.
Yeah, I have to say they've had a lot of growth over the past several years.
You can see that their team works really well together.
And this pyramid is the open pyramid. So what that means is that the coaches have the autonomy to do a pyramid of their choice, whether it be an inversion or, as we're seeing here, a strict press pyramid. Very well done, and a different dismount off of the same pyramid that we just saw.
They seem very happy with how that went.
Absolutely.
We have one more appearance in this event by Quinnipiac, and before we head off to halftime, how do we feel like the meet is going so far?
I think both teams should be really pleased with how they're performing so far. I don't think we've seen any major mistakes, just a few losses of balance, if that. Overall, the energy is good. Athletes seem pleased across the board. And I think everyone should be happy with how the teams are meshing and performing today.
I have to say I'm excited for the second half. The toss and tumbling are probably two of my favorite events. I don't know how you guys feel, but I always look forward to the second half.
How can you not love those events?
Exactly. They're the best. Skylar, do you agree?
Agreed.
All right, again, Quinnipiac starting with that back bend positioning and building here.
Another beautiful pike.
Really nice job.
Solid hold, solid dismount. Greatly executed.
And we're seeing some big cheers off the sideline of Quinnipiac. What a way to close out the first half.
I think out of all of the events in this half, I think that we saw the most satisfaction from the pyramid event amongst the teams, the least amount of errors and the most amount of excitement.
Yeah, I mean, their starting values really speak for themselves. Both teams had starting values of 10 across the board for the pyramid event, and executed, very well in all of that. So,
yeah, awesome first half. You really see the team gaining confidence as they progress through, and I think it'll be an exciting second half. We will get the scores after halftime.
Yes, we will.
And just watching this replay here, Quinnipiac did a nice job closing out that pyramid event. We will be back after halftime.
All right, we'll see you soon in a few minutes back at Quinnipiac. Thank you guys for joining us tonight. We'll see you in a few minutes.
See you soon.
Good evening. Thank you guys for joining us today. We are back here at Quinnipiac University for the Acrobatics and Tumbling season opener against Gannon University. We're really excited to be here. I'm Stephanie Colella, and I'm joined by two former alumni as well, Skylar and Emily. Really excited to be back here.
Absolutely, and we're about to kick off the second half. We recently received our pyramid event scores, where Quinnipiac ended with a 29.55 and Gannon with a 29.00. Again, we're seeing a very tight competition between the two teams, both showing great scores after greatly executed events.
And I feel like we knew coming out of that by the reaction of both the schools that they were pretty pumped about what they put out there. So for Heat 1 of the pyramid event, Gannon scored a 9.7, Quinnipiac scored a 9.8. In the second heat, Gannon scored a 9.55, Quinnipiac scored a 9.8. And in the third heat, Gannon scored a 9.75 and Quinnipiac scored a 9.95. So incredible scores from both teams throughout the entire round. I mean, those are great scores for the first meet of the season.
Yeah, really fantastic. I mean, they all had starting values, as we talked about, of a 10. So really high scores across the board for both teams.
Absolutely. So here we have the toss event starting with Gannon. The toss event is an aerial event with a group of bases tossing one athlete in the air. As we just saw, the top completes a flipping and or twisting skill forward or backward. 2 of the 3 heats are solo tosses, as we just saw by Gannon, and 1 synchronized heat, where we have 2 groups. Each heat may score up to a perfect 10 with a total combined score in this event up to 30 points. So again, that start value will be dependent on the difficulty of the skill performed.
And the skill performed by Gannon had a start value of a 9.5, but we're going to watch it back here again. It had a very nice execution.
We talked about this before, but we're really looking to make sure that those tops execute the skill at peak height. They want to make sure they ride that air as much as possible and wait till they're at that peak moment to finish that skill.
We could see from that top view that our bases were very stable underneath. I don't think I saw any feet move.
And something you're able to see from the top view that viewers at home might not necessarily be able to see is that deviation from the center. It's really important that an athlete leaves the basket and lands in the same spot. This will make for a better catch by the bases and overall a better score.
So excited to see Quinnipiac taking the mat next for the 450 Salto heat of the toss event. They're having a starting value here of a 10, so excited to see what they're about to put out there.
And the top on this toss is number 6, Julia Teresi. We saw her complete a kick double, so that is a kick separation between the legs followed by a double twisting flip. Now, how hard is that skill?
I mean, it just sounds hard, right?
This is a skill that I think Quinnipiac's been working towards for the past couple of years. We've had some years in the past where it's a skill that we've excelled at, but from what I've heard, we have a couple of groups that are able to execute that this year, and this is another one of those skills that you build towards throughout the year. You'll see more teams executing this later in the season. We'll see some regular double tosses, some of the kick full tosses, but to start the season with the kick double, having that start value of 10-0 and a pretty great showing of it is a great place to start.
So a few things I just want to comment here on the recap are, one, the body positioning. Again, we mentioned those bases are not moving. We can see that in the aerial view. That means, too, that the top was able to execute the skill right at the top. And she went through piece by piece, did not rush it, did a really fantastic job. Really solid body positioning throughout that whole time, including in that catch, where she's in a nice piked position, really solid body form.
For the synchronized toss, we have Gannon University with a start value of a 9.40.
Nice job from Gannon. Lower start value, however, again, that can be a strategic move by the coaches. It's really important that you can put out a toss that you feel very confident about performing and that you can execute well. And I think Gannon did a nice job.
Definitely. I have to say I agree. And I think let's just also point out, this might not be as obvious to our viewers, but when we are having these synchronized skills, it really is much more challenging. You have to make sure that you're aligning everything, not just within one group, but that you're mirroring both groups here to do the exact same skill, same height, same catch. Really just, again, that we're looking for that copy and paste type approach here.
Watching that back, the tops had a really nice laid out position of their bodies. Sometimes you see with these toss events that the tops have to pike through in order to land back in the position that they need to have that solid catch. But Gannon had really great height on those tosses, and the tops had some great execution in their twisting that they were able to stay flat throughout the entirety of the toss.
That's a good point. We really do want to see those tops in that hollowed body positioning.
Next in the synchronized toss, we have Quinnipiac following, and they have a start value of 10.0. We can see a little bit of the stylistic choice here of wanting to do the toss on a diagonal. Again, will not impact their score, but just showcases different elements.
I have to say, I like when they do that. I feel like it allows the viewers, particularly even the officials too, to really see the skills that are being executed.
That was nicely done. Very difficult toss by the Bobcats. We saw a slight deviation from center. However, those bases were really able to hold it down and avoid foot movement when possible. The top on that right side was number 20, Catherine Coker, which Marianne Powers informed me that she was battling an injury during the fall. However, she worked very hard to come back, and based on that toss, you really would never know.
No, I mean, these athletes all look extremely solid out there.
The group did a good job, even though there was some deviation, really planting their feet and trying to embrace that catch and hold it to the best of their ability, which is quite impressive. And that was the same skill that we saw from the first heat, but now performed by 2 groups. So this is clearly something that they've been working on.
It's a great testament to the depth of their athletes, their roster, their bench, and just the skills they're able to put out confidently. Really well done. Excited to see what we have next.
Yeah, we're moving on to the open heat. So here we're going to have a group of up to 5 student athletes. Again, we're going to get that possible score of 10. Let's look at the potential starting values here with Gannon and Quinnipiac.
Actually, both teams have a start value of a 9.9 for the open toss.
Oh, interesting.
So we'll see if they're performing the same or different skills.
And the top here is number 2, Sydney Jarvis. We just saw her in the previous round where she did a very nice full. And here she did a very nice double. So that is a backflip with 2 full twists. Very nicely done. She replicated that same form that she showed us in that duo toss, and I think they should be proud of that.
Very nicely done. I might be biased towards the number 2. That was my number, so. How about you, Skylar?
I was number 46.
Oh, 46.
46.
And I think number 2 is the number of, that was Coach Ziva's number too.
Oh, no way.
That is a lucky number.
I love that.
Skylar, is there someone, I think I see a 46. Who currently wears 46 for the Bobcats?
We're going to have to pull out the roster.
Taylor Calvert.
Oh,
it's a good number.
Look at this.
So to talk a little
Passing
bit,
on the good numbers.
A little bit about previous number 2, Tiffany Ziba. She has entered her 2nd season on the Quinnipiac Bobcats coaching staff after competing for the program from 2020 to 2024. She was actually in my class, and I had the pleasure of competing with her. She was an exceptional leader then and is proving to be an exceptional leader now.
Yeah, she's really transitioned into that coaching role seamlessly and done fantastic.
And we'll have number 20, Catherine Coker, with a double full toss, similar toss that Gannon just showed us, except this time she's doing it on the head-on position. We watched her have some deviation in the duo event. However, that toss that she just performed did not show any deviation from center, and she maintained that beautiful form that she showed us in that first toss round.
Let's introduce the tumbling event.
So that open toss for Quinnipiac will conclude the toss event. And next, we're going to have the tumbling event. So the tumbling event is my favorite event to watch, and it features powerful synchronization and individual tumbling passes. Athletes may compete in 1 synchronized pass and up to 1 solo pass. So again, you can't have that carryover. One athlete can't be in every tumbling round, so that is why a good recruiting class and deep bench is so very important. So passes will feature a variety of salto and twisting elements and are valued for the difficulty and the connection of those skills. 3 synchronized and 3 individual heats construct the tumbling event with 10 points each for a maximum of 60 points for this event. So not only is it a 6-heat event, it is a high-stakes event.
Absolutely. And one thing just to make note of is these skills are being executed, of course, on a mat, but there is no spring floor to this. Now, a lot of us coming from competitive cheerleading have practiced and, competed on spring floors where you really get that forgiveness in executing your skills. there's really no give here. You're on hardwood and mat, so that just goes to show you. And you'll see when these athletes are executing their skills here that they have incredible power. The power that they're getting in these skills is coming solely from them. There is no extra rebound there that they're getting from any spring. So I always just like to mention that because there is clearly a difference in generating this power.
And I think that's one of the most unique things about acrobatics and tumbling. As you said, we have these athletes coming from so many different disciplines to the point where they have practiced their entire lives up until college on a completely different surface. You don't see many college sports where you're bringing in first-year athletes who have never done the sport before.
Absolutely.
All right, we're going to be able to get you guys those toss scores for this last event.
Here we go. They're coming in now. So here are our toss event scores. In the 450 salto heat, Gannon received a 9.15 and Quinnipiac received a 9.75. In the synchronized toss heat, Gannon received a 8.95, Quinnipiac received a 9.15. And in the open heat, Gannon received a 9.4 and Quinnipiac received a 9.5. Making our event totals, Gannon 27.5 and Quinnipiac with a 28.4.
So Quinnipiac continues to extend their lead here over the Golden Knights, taking each heat of the toss event.
So although both teams had pretty great execution, we can see the advantage of having that higher start value, where you might have taken a couple of dings for deviation. Having that higher start value helps you remain a little bit ahead in some instances.
Which brings us to our meet totals. Gannon has scored a 119.85, and Quinnipiac has scored a
Certainly, and that's a great total for both teams, and I think what's important about the first meet is getting yourselves to a place where you can continue to grow. You don't want to be at your peak at the very first meet of the season. You want to be able to save that for the eventual postseason titles.
Definitely. And you can see throughout the day that our synchronized heats tend to have a little bit lower scores, and that's because you have that extra level of syncing up the two groups. So the judges have a little bit something extra to look at and a little bit something extra to evaluate.
So our first heat here, you see Gannon with the duo heat. You're seeing two athletes execute identical synchronized tumbling passes. And as Emily was mentioning, again, we're looking at not only the skills executed individually, but the synchronization amongst these two athletes.
So in that event, we had Sydney Gibson and Peyton Oliver, two seniors for Gannon, and they did a very nice job overall. Their form and execution was good. Small lacks of synchronization, but they were eventually able to produce a pretty cohesive, beautiful picture.
So that
front tuck
pass
step out to start, very impressive, very hard.
And we can just mention too, so these student athletes, although now they've been in one of these synchronized passes, they can participate in another tumbling sequence as an individual pass, but they cannot participate in another synchronized pass.
So that obviously creates, now you have to have between the duo, trio, and quad 7 athletes that have to be paired up, in different areas amongst those three heats. So sometimes what we see is the start values decrease a little bit as we get to more people. So that quad pass might have a lower starting value because you have to find 4 athletes that are able to do the same skill and able to do it similarly enough that you can get a good execution.
I'm laughing because this night is filled with more math than I was expecting, Emily.
I know. I need to bring my calculator next time. But that was a great showing from Gannon with a start value of 9.55, and Quinnipiac is gearing up to do their duo pass with a start value of 9.75.
So here we have number 5, Catherine Carter, and number 31, Ashley Dugan, two seniors for the Bobcats.
It's been a pleasure watching these two athletes over the years. Catherine Carter, I've always just enjoyed seeing all her skills. She's flawless in everything she does.
Two very explosive athletes that are thrilled with what they just did.
Overall, that pass showed beautiful synchronization and great form, great technique. I saw legs glued. Their landings were very controlled, especially in a difficult and long pass like that. It is challenging to stay within the length of the mat itself, which is an added layer that many people don't consider. And the athletes both did a great job staying both inbounds and controlled.
One of the other things we're looking at too with these passes is the speed and acceleration. So yes, they start these passes very strong with speed, but it's critical that they accelerate as they're going throughout the pass. You'll see here each athlete's picking up speed throughout this pass.
Something that always impresses me about this pass, and we might see it with 3 whips later on, is when you are whipping multiple times in a pass, it is very difficult to keep timing because, as you said, you have to gain speed in order to complete the pass. So trying to keep that synchronization after whipping 2 times is quite difficult.
I mean, especially with varying heights, you know, that's one thing to think about too.
Definitely. And Gannon is now coming out with the trio pass with a start value of 8.75.
A small misstep by number 43 there, but overall good synchronization and techniques by the Golden Knights. Here we had number 2, Sydney Jarvis, number 4, Lindsay Bolvin, and number 43, Adriana Fitzpatrick. Although we did see a bit of a misstep, it is important that all of the other elements were so clean, synchronized, and nicely done.
That's a good point. Let's take a look at that recap here. Nicely executed here, and you can just see that misstep. It was a challenging landing, landed a little short, and then, unfortunately had to require that step to finish it.
So what I notice a lot with these passes with that explosiveness is sometimes we have those short landings because they're trying to make sure that they don't fly off the mat because the mat ends and you can't step off of it. So in a pass like that, you might be trying to shorten yourself and end up cutting yourself a little bit short and having a mishap.
That in conjunction with trying to time yourself up with your teammates can make for challenging landings and may result in some missteps, as we have just seen.
These athletes sure have a lot to focus on, not only, again, the execution of that skill, but the body positioning in that landing is equally as important. You know, we've talked about that with acro, we've talked about that with the tosses and pyramids, how it's not just that skill at the top, but it's how they finish it too.
All the way through to that step. Here comes Quinnipiac with their trio pass with a start value of 9.55.
The Quinnipiac Bobcats are actually the reigning national champions in the trio tumbling pass.
Really look too, we're looking at not just the solid hollow body positions, but the positioning of these athletes' legs is also critical. We want to make sure that there's really not any leg separation. We don't want to make sure there's not bent knees in certain skills. So really just incredibly done by these 3 athletes right now. I have to say that was a fantastic pass.
I'm excited to watch that one back because in real time, their timing
flawless.
Phenomenal.
Perfection.
Phenomenal.
That was great. And those are 3 athletes that are very explosive tumblers.
Yep.
So going into it, I was a little bit worried that maybe depending on what pass they're doing, they might not be able to stay on par with each other. But look at that. I mean,
beautiful.
Fabulous timing right off to where they punch for that final full.
And in that event, we had number 18, Emily St. Ange, a part of that national championship group. Number 17, Avery Malik, and number 3, Alicia Moore. Alicia Moore, that was actually her tumbling debut for the Bobcats as she transferred this year from Morgan State University, where she was a member of their acrobatics and tumbling team.
It's fun to hear about how many transfers some of the programs are seeing, and every team has their own unique atmosphere.
Absolutely.
And it's fabulous hearing that there's so many transfers because the environment still seems to be the same old Quinnipiac. You know, they're so positive and encouraging of each other on the sidelines. So, You know, sometimes in any collegiate sport, you might need to find a school that's a better fit for what you need.
Absolutely.
So it's great to hear that there's a lot of success with transfers finding their home in many different programs.
That reminds me, did you guys have a chance to look at the coaches poll this year for where people are ranked?
Quinnipiac
Yes.
sits at number 3, and we're seeing Gannon at number 9. In the number 2 slot, we have the University of Oregon, and at number 1 for the multiple consecutive year, we have Baylor. Quinnipiac and Oregon both received 2 first-place votes by the committee, and it will be another strong season as they're living up to their ranking.
Yeah, I mean, Oregon, Baylor, Quinnipiac have kind of consistently been in, at least the top 5, if not top 3, for the past several years. They're teams that have been part of that kind of foundation in starting the sport, but they've just really done fantastic. I always look forward to seeing the 3 of them each year. So.
Yeah, and I'm taking a peek at it, and we have schools from all different divisions being represented in the coaches poll for our top teams. And my eye is especially drawn to Duquesne, who I believe last year or the year prior was their inaugural year. So
that's wonderful.
I remember last year they had an immense amount of success right off the bat. I believe that was their first season. So absolutely fabulous that there's recognition there of a newer program, but that's still a powerhouse.
Definitely.
Yes, Gannon's next meet is February 20th versus number 7 Duquesne.
Oh, that's
That
exciting.
will be very exciting to see how such closely ranked teams pair up against each other.
So now we have the quad pass from Gannon starting to line up on the mat. That has a start value of 8.00.
And this is the last synchronized tumbling pass for Gannon.
Very nicely well done full. We saw number 17, Lana Bergensen, number 34, Bailey Herbert, number 18, Tori Soper, and number 33, Julia Bukowski.
Another pass with great timing. I think that's, we've said it a lot. It's something that needs to be recognized. I mean, you're doing difficult skills and still having to time it up with multiple people around you. And you can see that the point of landing when their feet are touching in between each skill matched up really, really well for having 4 athletes having to synchronize their tumbling.
The upcoming quad event for the Bobcats shows representation from multiple classes. We have a freshman, sophomore, junior, and senior competing, which is very exciting.
That's kind of fun.
We have number 19, Summer Reno, freshman. Number 22, Tiffany Smith as a junior. Number 29, Alyssa Esposito, also a member of the 2025 Trio National Championship Group. And number 52, Gabriella Pierce, who is a senior.
This pass has a start value of 9.25.
It's a pretty high starting value, particularly for a quad pass. Really explosive there. Awesome acceleration. I think the synchronization was fabulous, I have to say.
Nicely done. This is absolutely one of the hardest synchronization rounds in the entire meet, and without a doubt is the hardest one to synchronize in the tumbling events. We're watching some of the athletes in front of us here who are just ecstatic with this result.
We'll
yeah, I
see
have to
that
say,
replay here.
It's so great to see the camaraderie and team support, not just on the mat when the skills are being executed, but off that. These each teammate is rooting for each other, they're supporting each other, and, sharing positive energy when they're finished and even before they're out there. So it's great to see.
It really is. So in that replay, we got to see a little bit as they came out of the passes, a little bit halfway through. it almost looked like the front two tumblers timed up with each other perfectly and the back two timed up perfectly, and there was like a millisecond of a pause between the two, but still absolutely fabulous. I mean, sometimes the passes come out and there's no sync at all, which, you know, it is one different step, one little skip that can change things. So I just think that that was an incredible showing from all the synchronized passes from Gannon and Quinnipiac. And now we'll get to see a little bit of that creativity in tumbling with our individual passes. So starting off from Gannon with the aerial pass, there's a start value of 9.55.
Yes, here we have number 12, Peyton Oliver.
So this is an individual pass, one salto before a final salto. You'll see that again in the recap here in just a second.
Nicely done by the senior. She showed great control, and that likely attests to her veteran status within the team.
So far, all of the tumblers have had really great continuity coming out of their skills. They've just been exploding right into the next skill. Sometimes you see a little bit of a stall. I think that the athletes have been doing an exceptional job. You can see right there, she steps right out of her punch front into that round off. Keeps nice control. Something to note in the tumbling passes, you'll see most people take a step out of it. That is something that you can declare in your start, in your SV file with your start values. It will not impact your score. I mean, some athletes, you're able to not declare a step, but I think most athletes end up declaring that step because it's really hard to do these explosive, intense passes without taking a step at the end.
Yeah, I agree. I think most declare it on these running passes, particularly for the acceleration that they're picking up with speed. And I find it also to be a safety mechanism as well.
Definitely. Here we have from Quinnipiac their aerial pass with a start value of 10.0.
This is number 18, Emily St. Odge. We saw her earlier today in one of the synchronized heats.
Really nice air there. Wonderful job.
Very challenging pass with a lot of unique elements. With a pass like this with so many varying elements, it is really important that athletes are able to gain the speed and power they need to perform the entirety of the pass. We saw just a smidge of a loss of continuity. However, this athlete is so experienced and well-versed in tumbling that she was really able to correct it and end with a beautiful end result.
Yeah, and I think that initial height, too, on the Arabian was just fantastic. Really high, really helped her get more speed as she went around. And I think right here was where we kind of lost some of that momentum, but she was still able to finish that full twisting layout at the end there, nice and solid.
Very controlled landing as well.
That Arabian caught my eye as well. When she was warming up, I just was shocked at how much height she got.
She got incredible height there. So we're going to be moving on to the sixth element. Again, this is another individual pass. 6 elements only. We are going to have one athlete out there starting with Gannon in just a second. And we'll do the starting values with Gannon first.
Yes, we have another start value of 9.55 for Gannon with the 6 element pass. And this part must be very nerve-wracking as the officials are scoring the pass that just went and you're standing there waiting for your name to be called.
Not to mention the meet is coming to a close and we are approaching the team event, one of the more nerve-wracking events of the entire meet. We see number 38, Sydney Gibson, a senior from Gannon, preparing to take the floor for the 6 element tumbling pass.
And we've seen number 38 a lot today, which I think is a testament to the growth throughout your years as a collegiate athlete. I don't know what she started out in, but she's been showing us a lot of variety in her skill set today, which is just incredible.
Yeah, that's a good point. She has been out there on several different events, and you're right, it speaks to her skill level. It doesn't just stop with toss. It doesn't stop with the tumbling. She has diverse skill here, which is really critical and makes her a true asset to the team.
As we do approach the end of the meet, we do consider what a first meet really means to a team. When I talked to Coach Powers, she told me that she was really just excited to get out there, excited to show the first years what a meet is like, because when they arrive here in September, it is a long road of training, a long road of preseason to get to today. And I think the opportunity to get the season running is a great way to shift the mindset and start to see what your team can really put together.
Yeah, I remember Coach Powers always talking about not knowing how an athlete truly performs at meets until the meets happen. So all that preparation going into today to see how athletes perform, and I think everyone has shown what they're able to do.
That was a beautiful pass by number 38. She did lose a bit of a deduction there by going out of bounds. However, her execution was nearly flawless, especially with that 1.5 step out, which is a very challenging transitional skill.
Yeah, and I thought her speed there was perfect. I think she accelerated quite nicely, had solid form throughout the whole time, no leg separation, just very nicely executed. We'll take a look at the recap.
Remember, they're looking for 6 elements.
And she's just slightly too long there. I do not think her landing was out of control at all. It was just a matter of timing and distance in the initial round off.
Skylar, you talked earlier about the length of the mat playing a role. I mean, when you're doing a powerhouse pass like that and having to consider if there's enough mat for you to even fit on, that's probably the last thing that you might be thinking about. But it's really important when you're executing the skills, having the control over the length of them in order to not end up off the mat at the end, especially for safety reasons. I mean, beyond the deduction, I don't think anyone wants to land a pass as intensive as what we're seeing today off the mat.
No, definitely not. There are so many factors for these athletes to consider, especially when choosing what tumbling pass may be right for them.
And you'll see too, the athletes will often start off of the mat so that they can properly and safely land on the mat when they're completing their pass here. So we have Kat Carter up with the 6 element individual pass.
Start value of 10-0.
We saw Kat do 3 whips, 1 back handspring into a 1.5 twisting flip. She did a beautiful job. Kat Carter is sort of a veteran tumbler for the Bobcats and has been in these rounds since her very first year. Now as a senior, her experience has really shown, especially with that performance she just put out.
I have to say, I don't know if it's the cold, but I just got the chills. That was just an incredible pass. I think it was flawless. I think that she really nailed it. Perfect leg placement, great body positioning, particularly in that twisting layout. She was hollow, solid landing. I think it was wonderful.
Even just landing the 1.5, her chest and hips were perfectly squared to where she needed to be. I think that was just gorgeous.
Yeah. If there was a textbook for this pass, that would be it.
Perfectly said.
And Emily, you mentioned the starting value there was a 9.8 or 9.9? I can't remember.
This was actually a 10-0.
Oh, my goodness.
So we'll see how that's evaluated.
That's wonderful to see.
This is why we're just talking and not judging, because
Yep.
a lot of 10s would be.
Yeah, we'd be giving out 10s.
The final heat of the tumbling will be the open pass. Up first with a start value of 9.25.
All right, this is our last heat for the tumbling event. It is the open heat, individual pass, no requirements here.
Start value of 9.25 from Gannon University.
That was number 4, Avery Tumler. She's a junior for the Golden Knights. She did a really nice job with that pass, especially with that final skill. She was close to not fully making that 1.5 twist. However, she was able to very nicely control and pull into that final half to make a nice landing. So now Gannon has completed their 6-heat tumbling event. This is a 60-point round. That's very high stakes. They had one small mistake in a synchronized heat, but other than that, I think they will be very happy with their performance as they get ready to prepare for the team event.
For sure, with all their start values put together, they were starting at a 54.65, so we'll see how their execution is evaluated. Can see a little bit, I think, of an under rotation in that pass there, but a great recovery in finishing it, taking the step.
Yeah, really nice landing. I think that being able to lunge with both of your heels on the ground without jumping or stopping yourself really shows control and strength in tumbling. And I think number 4, Avery, really showed that well.
Yeah, definitely. We talked about moving into the team event, which will be in just a few minutes, but it's critical to think about right now. These athletes really got to stay warm. They got to basically prepare to execute all the skills that they've been working on throughout the meet so far, including tumbling, toss, acro, which we'll talk about what the team event entails in a few minutes. But really, they got to stay warm, they got to stay ready, and they're about to hit the hardest part of what I think is the entire meet.
Right, nearly 2 hours into the meet from, they luckily in the sport, they have halftime and they have 15 minutes to fuel, freshen up those skills and get ready for the second half. But I mean, these athletes have probably been warming up since early afternoon and getting ready to have the performance that they're having today. So at 7:00 p.m. pretty much, that's a lot to ask from them to put everything that they've been doing for the past couple of hours together and put it together well. But it's still the best part. I mean, I love team event.
I agree. It's exciting to see. There's also the creativity part that we really get to appreciate with the team event.
For sure. And this is the last pass of the tumbling round. We have the open pass from Quinnipiac with a start value of 9.75.
And that was number 25, Alyssa Esposito, a very beautiful tumbling pass. She really did a nice job with her overall continuity. And again, we saw another pass span the entire length of the floor, but she did a great job controlling that landing.
Something that Quinnipiac, I think, is always recognized for is their tumbling. I think that consistently they have beautiful tumbling passes. I feel like everyone that is put out there has really great technique. So it's great to see that even with some shifts in the coaching staff the past couple of years, that they've continued to hold that as a true value and something that they prioritize.
Definitely. And Coach Ziba discussed how they're not even at their tumbling peak yet.
Wow. Well, I have to say they continue to excel. They continue to get better and better. And they don't just advance their skills, but they continue to improve on form as well, which is, I think, just critical to the success of this team.
Right. Sometimes when you think about being early in the season, you think about, like, what's the next big and best thing? And sometimes the next big thing is cleaning up what you're already doing, is taking those passes that, maybe the 9.5 start value or something like that is your best. How can we make it better? How can we perfect that pass to get the full start value through execution? It doesn't always mean that. Even in the national championship, you won't always see teams performing everything at a start value of a 10-0, but you might see someone with a start value of 9.9 fulfilling that 9.9, which is hugely impressive.
Kind of reminds me of when Coach Powers used to say, I'm sure you guys heard it, but what's the difference between extra and ordinary? It's just a little bit extra. Was that it? I might have messed that one up.
I don't know. I liked it. Maybe that's your saying now.
It might be.
If it's not the same one, I like it.
So extra and extraordinary is a little bit extra. There we go. Yeah, you got to put in a little bit extra to continue to get these skills better and better.
So as we're waiting for these tumbling scores, let's introduce the team event. So the team event encompasses everything you just watched in the first 5 events. It features up to 24 athletes on the floor at one time, performing skills in acro, toss, pyramids, and tumbling in a routine set to music. Each routine contains required skills and optional skills, and the start value is based on the difficulty of the skills selected to fulfill these requirements. Execution deductions are the same in this event as they are in previous events, so larger deductions are applied if an athlete falls or does not complete a skill. This is a very fast-paced event, so be sure to keep your eyes on the mat at all times.
So we're going to debrief that in just a second, but first let's talk scores. So in the duo heat, Gannon received an 8.7 and Quinnipiac received a 9.25. In the trio heat, Gannon received a 7.15, Quinnipiac received a 9.15. In the quad heat, Gannon received a 7.45, Quinnipiac received a 8.7. In the aerial pass, Gannon received a 9.2, Quinnipiac received a 9.15, and then we have additional scores loading here. So for the 6-element pass, Gannon received a 9.25, Quinnipiac received a 9.85. For that open pass, Gannon received a 8.575, Quinnipiac received a 9.55. So at the end of the tumbling heat, Gannon received a 50.325 and Quinnipiac received a 55.65. Wow, that was a mouthful.
So at the end of the first 5 events, we're seeing about a 5-point deficit between the two teams. Quinnipiac at a 124.75 and Gannon at a 119.850.
So in referencing to the start values of that, Gannon's total start value was a 54.65 and Quinnipiac was a 58.3. So we can see that from the start value to the actual execution, there was about a 5-point difference for Gannon and about a 3-point difference for Quinnipiac. So really a great start to execution of the passes. A great job so far. I mean, really great scores going into the team event, which can really make or break a meet.
Yes,
absolutely.
And it also can put the athletes in a great mental space before approaching the hardest event of the meet.
And just to recap, we have Gannon going in with a 170.175 and Quinnipiac at a 180.40, and that's before the team event. There we go, Gannon.
Start value for Gannon is a 103.12. So keep your eyes peeled. There's a lot happening, and good luck, Gannon.
We'll try to talk you through some of it. So far, we've seen a little bit of standing tumbling. Here we're going to look like we're going to start to see some building with some acro and pyramid.
We see those back bends again. We're looking to sync up the skills that they're doing right now. We have 4 groups doing acro.
4 synchronized pyramids, that is not easy to do, and these are difficult pyramids at that. Very nicely done. Here we'll go into some tumbling.
A little bit off with the timing there on both sides, and we've got a step and a fall there. These are, again, the things that the officials are going to be looking at. Now, the judges are each going to have, the officials are each going to have certain mats that they're responsible for officiating.
Here we're in our acro portion, solid so far.
Very solid showing. Let's see how the dismount goes.
Those 5 groups did a very nice job.
Nice, solid synchronization there.
Some more tumbling coming at us. We have some tosses in the back, prepping. Great timing on those tosses.
Wonderful height, too.
Coaches are happy with that.
They got to keep up that energy. They still got a minute left. Great dismounts across the board there.
Here comes their second burst of running tumbling. At this point, you're probably going to see some mistakes with the landing on tumbling. This is a very difficult point in the routine.
That last duo pass there, I thought did a really fantastic job with their synchronization.
I agree.
Here we'll get 2 more tosses to finish out the routine.
See 2 synchronized tosses here.
Great sync again.
And one of the best parts of the team event is the final dance.
Nicely job by Gannon. Great way for their season opening.
For sure.
Absolutely. They came out there and they proved that they belong in that preseason top 10. They did a beautiful job encompassing everything they had done thus far and even doing some things that we had not seen yet.
Yeah, there's certainly a lot to unpack there, right? So we talked about how the team event does consist of acro, tosses, pyramids. There's the standing tumbling. There's the running tumbling. There's the dance. There's just so much that goes into this portion of the meet today, and just all at once, too, in 2 minutes and 45 seconds.
Yep, and it's easy when you're watching the team event to see what might not necessarily go right. But if I remember correctly, all of their acro and pyramids were in the air. All of their tosses caught really great. We did see in that second bout of running tumbling a couple issues with landing, whether it was some touches or some extra steps. And I think that's attributed to how much power these athletes are running with, because they're probably pretty tired at that point in the routine that they're doing what they can to make the skills happen.
Here we got some replay. Here we're seeing these 4 bridge pyramids, which I thought was one of the strongest points of their routine. So synchronization is a requirement for this team routine in the tumbling, which is why you'll see athletes coming out of the corners in pairs.
I really love this sequence here. They had great timing and great landings. Those aren't easy to land and catch correctly.
I liked seeing that little energy there with that handshake.
It's always fun to see some personality in the team event.
Those full twisting tosses are something that we got to see earlier in the meet from Gannon that they had also executed great there.
Some really good tumbling in this routine.
Yeah, I think there was, a few little missteps there with the tumbling sequences, but I think overall they really nailed it. I think they have some things to work on, but again, this is the season opening, and I think they showed great power, and I think they've got a great season ahead of them.
Definitely, and as we said, their next meet is February 20th against number 7 Duquesne. One of the best parts about going out there and actually starting the season is knowing where to put your efforts and work on for the next coming weeks.
Definitely, and you've had, since they probably arrived to campus in August or September, they've been slowly working up to this point, and then once the meets start, it's like, hey, we need to fix this within a week. Right. So it's good when they have a little bit more of a gap so they can make those changes and improvements that they're looking to make. But I think from the meet today, it's a lot of cleaning up that needs to happen, but the skills really went and were pretty confident from both teams, which is just really exciting to see.
The skills and difficulty are definitely here for both of the teams tonight.
Yeah, so Quinnipiac will be hitting the road for their next meet. So Saturday, February 21st, they've got a big meet ahead of them. They'll be up in Oregon against Oregon's acrobatics and tumbling team. So that'll be an exciting meet. Look forward to seeing that as well.
And they are ranked number 2 in the preseason poll, so that is probably the weekend where some rankings start to shift, seeing what athletes are putting out this year as opposed to the past season.
Absolutely.
Quinnipiac is gearing up to take the mat. You can see head coach Marianne Powers really pumping her athletes up to get ready to put on a great show. They have a start value of a 107.20. I believe the highest start value for a team routine is a 110. Thank you for confirming. So that's a great start value for a team routine. I mean,
it's pretty high.
Yeah, we're going to see a lot of elements coming at us just like we did with Gannon. And squeezing it all into 2 minutes and 45 seconds is a little crazy.
Coach Nicolette Tianga told me that this was the part of the meet that she was most excited for. She said she loves their team event this year and is really excited to see what they put out.
Absolutely.
It's really electric watching the athletes motivate each other through these routines. You could see during Gannon's performance, like, their encouragement towards each other, the coaches placed around the mat to cheer their athletes on, because you have to dig so deep. I mean, it's like running a marathon or doing something crazy for 2 minutes and 45 seconds, and so many pieces
It's
involved.
like running a marathon followed by a long sprint.
We talked about how this is such a fun event to watch, but it is also such a high stakes event. We talked about how there are 300 points to grab in each meet, but over 100 of them are coming in the next 2 minutes.
It's a fabulous point. Yeah, we've seen that happen at many meets before, where it might be coming down to this, or you might have a not so stellar team event performance and it completely changes what you thought going into the event. So you really never know. So we're hoping for another great team event performance, and here come the Bobcats.
All right, Quinnipiac taking the mat for the final event, and that is their team event. We've got 24 athletes out there.
The crowd is super pumped. This is their first time seeing the team event for the Bobcats. I know I'm very excited.
We'll open with some standing tumbling.
Looks like we're going to see some tosses here as well.
Really good synchronization so far.
And 3 kick doubles, 10.0 start value, amazing.
Incredible height there amongst all 3 groups, and really solid landings with hollow body positions. Another critical thing is to look at where they're catching those tops, and that was really at that shoulder level, which was great to see.
So we just saw a handful of cartwheel full tucks go, which is something that I know that they've loaded their team routine with.
Getting a lot of that standing tumbling out of the way at the beginning of this routine, and now we're seeing the acro sequence. Very solid so far.
One thing I'll mention that Quinnipiac's doing right now so far in the team event is they're using the mat really well. They've gone from each skill to the next seamlessly. They've kind of builded on each thing with little movement in between. So I think that's just really great utilization of the mat that I have to point out.
Here comes the first running tumbling sequence.
Seeing some synchronization from these corners. Really nicely done.
I also have to say solid music choices so far from both teams.
Good landings. Now we're seeing the pyramid portion.
And everyone was on their feet in that first running tumbling sequence.
We're seeing the same pyramid we saw in the duo round, as well as the open pyramid round with this bridge.
That's a really solid hold there. Wonderful
Strong
job.
and steady, 10.0 value pyramid.
Quinnipiac's looking really strong.
Yep, now we're heading into the last bit.
Got
Looking at the
45
clock.
seconds.
So they got to dig deep. It looks like we're lining up for some more tumbling.
2 more tosses there, both very nicely executed. You can just feel the energy in this building.
One thing I'll also point out that Quinnipiac's doing right now is similar to the way they approach their tumbling passes with acceleration. Their energy has continued to excel throughout the performance here today, which is just incredible. The energy is not just on the mat. You can see the teammates along their side cheering them on, so it's just wonderful to see. They're
And
finishing
I
strong.
think everyone was on their feet.
Yeah, that
for
tumbling portion was very strong, finishing with this pyramid. And I believe that was a hit routine.
Solid.
that. Wow. Give me a minute to collect my thoughts.
Yes, let's take a moment. Let's let it all sit in. Lot to recap.
The crowd is pumped.
I have to say, I mean, it's really, really hard to pick up energy like that and accelerate that throughout 2 minutes and 45 minutes, or 2 minutes and 45 seconds. But Quinnipiac really did a fantastic job. It's rare to see that, but particularly rare to see in a season opener. I'm amazed. I think both teams did a wonderful, wonderful job.
And the celebration on the sideline, as you can see, is
I'm seeing
fabulous.
smiles across the board.
All right, so what are the officials going to be looking at? So the officials are generally watching 1/3 of the whole mat, but they're going to follow all tumbling passes that originate in their section of the mat to completion. So they will be crossing coverage in certain passes. And teams do have to submit a whole diagram prior to the meet, and that's going to outline the order of their skills and placement on the mat. So the judges know what to anticipate and how to follow each of those passes.
We like to call the team routine organized chaos. However, our judges have a little bit of an idea what the organized chaos is going to look like before they begin. Here we have
we
some
don't,
highlights.
which is why we were so excited.
Yeah, here's the recap here. Again, one thing I thought Quinnipiac did a really solid job with was utilization of the mat. They really went from each skill to the next with really strategic structure there. They used it well. They didn't have a lot of downtime. It was nicely organized.
And that's part of the strategizing that we've talked about. It is so important that you utilize the mat and really in a way that you can showcase your very best skills.
Yeah, I felt each transition into the next part of this routine was very nicely done.
These highlights that we're watching really highlight the synchronization that we saw. I thought the Bobcats did a really nice job timing out their passes, which can be very challenging in a fast-paced setting such as that.
Yeah.
I was really impressed with that, especially with the caliber of skills that they were doing. A lot of those passes that we talked about earlier, where halfway through they do a whip or an Arabian or a 1.5 step out that can really throw off timing.
Yeah, and as you said, in that kind of high-pressured situation, the synchronized passes are challenging in itself, right? We know that. We see that in the tumbling event. We see the challenges that come with that. But then during a kind of a high-energy, fast-paced environment during these team events, it's really even more challenging. But I thought Quinnipiac, I thought Gannon did a nice job as well. And I thought it was, great to see.
Yeah, and that just made me think about how some of the cues that you might use in synchronized events, especially tumbling, like hearing when people are hitting certain spots on the mat, you can't hear that when the music is blasting.
Oh, yeah.
So you really have to know your counts and keep yourself to them, because you won't be able to hear the cues of your teammates when you're tumbling.
I know. I think I lived most of my life in an 8 count. Still find myself counting to 8.
Well, if you're Quinnipiac, how are you going into the next meet after this performance?
I mean, I think they should go in with a lot of energy. I think that they should be confident in the skills they're executing. I wouldn't be surprised if they turn it up a notch for their next meet, particularly against Oregon. It'll be interesting to see. Hopefully we can try to touch base with Coach Powers and see what she's going into the next meet with.
Yeah, I'd feel really confident after today. I think it's maintaining that. We have first-time jitters. I think that they use them to their advantage, so not losing that spark going into their next meet and being just as energetic and explosive as they were today.
Definitely. Coming off of the 2025 season, they did finish 7-1 in the regular season with a loss to Oregon. However, I think this meet just highlights their potential for greatness. And while the team has many, many returners and valued contributors, they do have over 10 first years and 3 transfers who are contributing to what we saw today.
And just looking future into this season, so I think it's always exciting to think about when Quinnipiac's going to be home again. So their next home meet will be on Sunday, March 22nd at 1 p.m. here at the M&T Arena, and that'll be against Long Island. So excited to see that.
Yeah, we have a little bit of a gap between now and then they have 2 home meets back-to-back, I think, kind of within the same week or back-to-back weekends. So we're definitely excited to watch them on the road.
Yes, definitely excited to be back here on March 22nd. Really looking forward to that. I believe that might be an alumni meet, if I remember correctly. So we definitely see, I'm looking in the crowd right now, seeing several alumni here with us tonight. But I know on March 22nd, there'll be many, many more. So looking forward to that as well.
And it looks like the team event scores are out.
8-2-0.
Gannon has scored a 77,
Bobcats, they scored 86.310.
and the Quinnipiac Bobcats have scored an
Gannon's final score is
86.
247.995, and Quinnipiac finishes with a final score of 266.710. Congratulations to the winner of tonight's meet.
We're waiting for, okay, we can see our
Bobcats.
final meet score. Gannon received a 247.995 and Quinnipiac received a 266.710. So the Bobcats have won their first matchup of the season.
Congratulations to Quinnipiac on their victory today, and also congratulations to Gannon for doing a wonderful job. Both teams really did very strong, especially as a season opener for the 2026 acrobatics and tumbling season. Looking forward to seeing the success from both teams, and we look forward to seeing the acrobatics and tumbling sport continue to evolve, particularly with this special year for them. We're going to see if we can get some time with Coach Powers. Thank you guys for joining us tonight.
Thank you.